I wanted to squeeze in as we wrap here clips of this State Department press secretary being a total tool, being asked about
his name is a tool name. Like you're Ned Price. Like you're never gonna have a Ned Price who isn't a loser.
Okay,
Like,
so I have this clip queued
right?
up. So the thing that went viral was Matt Lee questioning Ned
Right.
about this. But in order for people to understand why Matthew Lee, who works for Associated Press, was set off, you have to hear this minute of what he said. Like, people have to know what the State Department is outlining and how completely insane it is what they're claiming.
We have previously noted our strong concerns regarding Russian disinformation and the likelihood that Moscow might seek to create a false flag operation to initiate military activity. Now, we can say that the United States has information that Russia is planning to stage fabricated attacks by Ukrainian military or intelligence forces as a pretext for a further invasion of Ukraine. One possible option the Russians are considering, and which we made public today, involves the production of a propaganda video, a video with graphic scenes of false explosions depicting corpses, crisis actors pretending to be mourners, and images of destroyed locations or military equipment, entirely fabricated by Russian intelligence. To be clear, the production of this propaganda video is one of a number of options that the Russian government is developing as a fake pretext to initiate and potentially justify military aggression against Ukraine. We don't know if Russia will necessarily use this or another option in the coming days. We are publicizing it now, however, in order to lay bare the extent of Russia's destabilizing actions towards Ukraine and to dissuade Russia from continuing this dangerous campaign and ultimately launching a military attack.
I just struck me that that they might actually be projecting onto Russia because that's what they funded in Syria. Like they funded the white helmets. I'm not saying all their videos were, but sometimes they just made shit up. They had like a production team, and that's what they're suggesting Russia. I mean, it's sometimes what the US says might sound insane, but they're actually just projecting stuff that they've participated in doing. But anyway.
Well, that's what I felt all throughout Russiagate when they talked about hacking. It's like, this is all, you're describing offensive hacking capabilities that the NSA has. So of course you think it's possible because you know you know it exists.
You've done it. You've done it. Yeah. Anyways.
But then also, he doesn't do it with Matt Lee. So this is the best time for me to make this comment. The thing that struck me in watching that is has he ever read a teleprompter on camera before? What is this thing where he locked his eyes and he's like,
it was a little creepy. There's no doubt about it.
It was like
he's like a robot. He's like a robot. He's like, they're charging me right now. Like, I don't even know why.
So here's
battery is low.
So here's the viral exchange, and I cut it down so that this is just like the 2 best minutes.
What is the evidence that they play? I mean, this is like crisis actors, really. This is like Alex Jones territory you're getting into now. What evidence do you have to support the idea that there is some propaganda film in the making?
Matt, this is derived from information known to the U.S. government, intelligence information that we have declassified. I think you know.
Okay, well, where is it? Where is this information?
It is intelligence information that we have declassified.
Well, where is it? Where's the declassified information?
I just delivered it.
No, you made a series of allegations and statements.
Would you like us to print out the topper? Because you will see a transcript of this briefing that you can print out for yourself.
That's not evidence, Ned. That's you saying it. That's not evidence. I'm sorry.
What would you like, Matt?
I would like to see some proof that you you can show that
Matt, you have
that shows that the Russians are doing this. Ned, I've been doing this for a long time.
I know, that was my point. You have been doing this for quite a while. You know that when we declassify intelligence information, we do so in a means. We do so with an eye to protecting sources and methods.
Is not going to fall. I remember a lot of things. So where is the declassified information other than you coming out here and saying, my God, what is the evidence that you have that suggests that the Russians are even planning this?
Matt,
I'm not saying that they're not, but you just come out and say this and expect us just to believe it without you showing a shred of evidence that it's actually true. Other than when I ask, or when anyone else asks, what's the information? You said, well, I just gave it to you, which was just you making a statement.
Matt, you said yourself, you've been in this business for quite a long time. You know that when we make information, intelligence information public, we do so in a way that protects sensitive sources and methods. You also know that we declassify information only when we're confident in that information. If you doubt the credibility of the U.S. government, of the British government, of other governments, and want to find solace in information that the Russians are putting out, that is for you to do.
I'm not asking what the Russian government is putting out, and
John.
what is it supposed to mean?
That's crazy. I hadn't actually watched the whole exchange because it was like going viral while I was sleeping. And I actually was awake because I'm so jet lagged, but I didn't want to wake up my partner, so I couldn't watch it. But like the point is, I actually hadn't seen it, and that is so batshit insane that he was like, if you don't believe the US and British governments, like, oh, because you've never lied? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and wild. I mean, kudos to Matt Lee, who I think has had many videos that I think many of us have seen trying to hold them accountable. But I mean, he does make a good point that I think is relevant. I mean, in this so-called video, if it does in fact exist, and I don't know if maybe they've released a video now at some point, I haven't seen it, but if you're saying that people are crisis actors instead of mourners, well, based on what? Like, I mean, are they also in a movie that just, premiered in Russia? How do you know they're not some random Ukrainian civilian? I mean, like, you think like the idea that like, well, there's no more proof we could give. We're trying to protect sources and methods when you've made a lot of just demonstrable claims that you think you could say, like, is it the way it's shot? Like, oh, it was in 1080p. And I don't think that in that kind of country, like, that could happen. I mean, like, you just feel like there's like a couple follow-on facts that you could have had to say, like, this is why I'm telling the truth. But instead you're like, I'm going to print out the transcript of what I just said and hand it to you. Like, and Ned Price, that's not what he means. And that's the thing about these briefings, is that he's like so incredulous. Like, how dare you? How dare you ask me for evidence in any way, shape, or form? We saw the same thing with Jen Psaki, who, a long line. I mean, saying that someone asking, because the ISIS guy they killed, they say the guy blew himself up, blah, blah, blah. And the woman was just like, well, what like evidence do you have that the guy blew himself up and it wasn't some other thing? And I believe it was a female reporter. I believe the context of why she was asking was in relationship to the civilian deaths. Like, I'm trying to get to the bottom of what really happened to see, did you actually do everything possible to avoid the civilian deaths, and so on and so forth. And, I know now Jen Psaki has come out and said, oh, they didn't tell the whole story, blah, blah, blah. But she did more or less suggest that this woman was believing ISIS propaganda as opposed to the US government, which was, shocking. And I think very much in line with Jen Psaki, who is generally very dismissive. I mean, we saw what she said about voting rights, have a margarita and go to a kickboxing class. And notable, her previous job in the government was the job Ned Price has. So, I mean, it's the nature of how these people come up in the system to dissemble, to smear, to slander, to misdirect, to distort. I mean, that's probably all press secretaries anywhere in the world to some degree, because you're trying to shape the narrative. But I think that in the United States, it's uniquely untethered from reality, because the reality is so damning that rather than just you can't come out and claim it, because they're lying to the American people about what they're doing. If they were telling the truth, they could come out and claim it. But since they're lying, they don't want American people to know. The people of the world know, but they don't want America to be hip to the lies they're telling.
I think they're also, that's so true. And I think another like additional element to that, to why they're so like, what, you're questioning me, is because the US media doesn't. Like, so rarely does the US media ask for evidence when the US makes a crazy claim about Russia, that Ned Price is actually like, wait, what? Someone questioned what I just said. And the same goes for the ISIS stuff, because I'm whenever I read the New York Times or the Washington Post or watch CNN, because I hate myself, when they're like discussing either Russia or China, I'm always just like, these people just swallow anything that US officials say and they believe it. Like, they're like, so America rah rah, can do no wrong. And it's like, how can you still have that attitude after the last like 20 years? But they actually do. And that's why they work at the New York Times and the Washington Post or get to anchor on CNN, because they're like they really are on Team America. So that's why I think Jen Psaki and Ned Price feel so entitled to not produce any evidence and to just accuse anyone who questions them of being a propagandist for the other side.
Yeah, well, first off, I've never met. One final comment before we were to wrap. I've never met a crisis actor. I don't actually know what it takes for somebody to become one, but I do feel confident in saying that Ned Price fits the type that I would be looking for if I wanted a crisis actor. I mean, that face is just easy to mold into looking like anything you could want. I feel like the makeup job would be pretty easy. In order, I know it might be uncomfortable for people, to put him into brown face or put him into blackface or whatever, but I feel like he's got the face for a crisis actor.
I feel like he could be like dressed up nicely as like a zombie, like an extra in a zombie movie. Like he just has the look. You could just put a little blood and like, give him a little more of a sunken face look. And
One final thing I will say about this that I do think is I don't know, maybe it's
a serious comment now.
it's amazing how deeply right-wing discourse has penetrated into the broader culture. Crisis actors, red pills, cuss. I
Yeah.
mean, so many things. And whether that's good, bad, or indifferent or has any real effect at the end of the day, I don't really know. I'm not making any big sort of meta point, but I am making a meta point about just sort of like the broader shift in right-wing. I mean, the fact that Matt Lee was right. It was Alex Jones who introduced the issue of crisis actors vis-a-vis the issue of the Sandy Hook shooting. So the fact that now a State Department spokesperson is using that phrase, it's an interesting commentary on sort of how our culture is being, or the forces that are heavily shaping our culture. As much as I know everyone's super up in arms about how, woke culture or whatever is ruining America, I think it's notable to see how a lot of the right-wing cultural discourse has now become more mainstream.
That's a really good observation.
Well, and then just to put an exclamation point on what Rania was saying before we go, this was the New York Times that they put this out, and this is at the same time that those journalists sat there and showed how much bullshit Ned Price was saying, and then they ran with this headline, and there's no skepticism in this headline. Look at this. This is exactly like WMDs in Iraq all over again.
Exposes. The U.S. has exposed with a statement it said with no evidence. It's an that's exposing now. That's amazing. What a word.
And so this was Julian Barnes, name and shame, Julian Barnes at the New York Times. And I just gotta say, I mean, we've had some good fun with this, but I honestly just have to say that they put more evidence when they claimed that Russia hacked the election than they did with this. They actually put out a document. They claimed 17 intelligence agencies had different levels of from good to high level confidence in what was being said about and they tried to present something that would persuade people that this is what happened to the 2016 election, to ruin the integrity of it. And here they're just like, I'm going to go before you and I'm going to make this statement and you're just going to believe me. And it's like, I guess we're supposed to, because this isn't Donald Trump's administration. That's all. That's really all it is. We're just supposed to believe what they say, because deep down we're supposed to believe they won't lie us into a war. But that's exactly what they're trying to do. Or worse, which is the conclusion I've come to, which is that they're not trying to start a war. They're just creating a crisis because they don't want Russia to be able to export natural gas to Germany. And they've already succeeded in stalling it, and now they want to destroy the project completely.